Leadership is a word that I have grown to despise. You know, everybody's talking about being a leader, and you'll see some of those same people lie, cheat, hold others back, and not take personal responsibility for their own actions. In this video, I'll share specifically the 5 phases of leadership, how you can grow your leadership and influence with important people around you every day in every aspect of your life. Hi folks, my name is Chris Solomay, and on this channel I help people with personal and career development. If you like that sort of stuff, subscribe. If you don't. Throughout my life, I've accidentally found myself in leadership positions. And this was really without even wanting to be there. As a young person, it definitely filled my ego. But as I matured, I realized the responsibility that comes with paving the pathway for others. I realized that leaders make a commitment that says, follow this path. I've tested it, and it's safe for you to walk down. Now, through the years, I've been a poor leader, I've been a decent leader, and I've worked with some poor leaders, and I've worked with some really good leaders as well. The steps that I'm about to share are the lessons that I've taken away from those experiences throughout the past 30 years of my work life. Now, I've come to believe that leadership comes down to one core thing, and it's not charisma, and it's not good looks, although that might help. It's not, are you the smartest person in the room or do you know the most? This one simple thing that it boils down to is the ability to take personal responsibility. Now, I've developed this thesis over time, witnessing both in myself and others things that work and, quite simply, things that don't work when it comes to a leadership style. I started learning this stuff many years ago, but I've tested them in my life, I've watched others try them, and so I believe what I'm about to share with you is tried and true. Here's the deal. There are 5 phases that a leader goes through as they develop. Number 1, the first phase is called self-leadership. The second phase is called self plus another person. The third is self plus small groups. The fourth is the group starts to grow. You start to be able to lead large groups. And then the 5th phase we call scalability. And you hear the term scaling a lot with the internet, but scaling leadership has been around forever. Another way to say it is leadership is influence. So whether you think you're a leader or you think you need to influence people or not, the truth is you still do. Now, if you're interested in growing your leadership skills, the good news is, while some leaders are born and definitely are wired for it, anybody can learn the skills that it takes to become a great leader. Now let's talk about phase 1, self-leadership. That's right. Learning to lead yourself, whether that be to learn and master a skill, getting yourself to do hard stuff, holding yourself accountable, and following through on the things that you set out to do. These are all qualities that somebody has to develop as they lead themselves. The fact is, people will see if your life is a mess, and they'll see if your life is not a mess. They'll see if you can hold yourself accountable. People will ask themselves the question, why should I follow you or take your advice to begin with? I believe personal responsibility and self-leadership is really where the hard yards are earned. You know, showing up to the world as the best version of yourself and being willing to put in the work is really the first step of development for a great leader. I also believe this is the most important phase in becoming a leader. And if you miss this one, the rest is really never going to happen. So I ask you, what are the things that you've been letting yourself slip on that are keeping you from growing your potential as a leader? Honestly, you might want to stop this video and write it down. What would it take for you to re-up and recommit yourself? Phase 2 is self plus 1. So what does this mean? Well, over time, when you start to do the right thing day in and day out, somebody will notice. Usually this is even before that you feel like you've made progress. Somebody's going to look your way and they're going to say something like, what have you been doing lately? You're looking really great. Or they might ask, how did you do that? Or, hey, can you teach me that thing you did the other day? That was really great. Whether it's a sales technique or something at work or something in just regular life. This is the first clue that you're moving in the right direction. Now, the type of influence that I'm talking about here is not social media, but it works the same way. You'll start to maybe grow a super fan, somebody that you'll see liking and commenting your stuff all the time. And then you know you're having impact, at least on that one person. But back to the live in-person stuff. Like, let's say you own a small business or you're looking to start one. Some person might come up to you and say, hey, I want to work for you one day because I like what you're doing or I like what you stand for. Again, this is the self plus one phase, and it's the second phase in you developing your leadership skills and your leadership style. Now, phase 3 is yourself plus a small group. The group starts to get a little bigger here. This is usually where you've started to gain tractions around your ideas and your values, and you're able to communicate them in somewhat of a teachable form. Groups of people will start to feel the impact of your presence in the workplace, or maybe the lessons that you've been sharing. Maybe this is inside of a business setting, and this can absolutely happen inside of your social groups as well. For example, in business, when you have grown competence where your coworkers start to look to you for advice and guidance, you may not be the official leader in that business, like with the business card that says vice president or owner, but your influence is definitely growing. A friend of mine calls that you become the unofficial leader. Or maybe you're in a workout kick and your friends have really started to follow your lead. This is a crucial stage in leadership because once you have a small group of people believing in you, you can scale that influence. Which brings us to the next obvious phase, which is larger groups. So the group now grows because the message becomes stronger and more relevant to that specific group. In this stage, there are definitely some skills that can come in handy, such as public speaking or your ability to speak on camera. If it's not this type of leadership that you're developing, then it could be something like organizational communication and how to communicate amongst the departments inside of your workplace. Now, before I share the final phase in leadership, I want to know, are you trying to grow your leadership skills either in your personal life or at work? What phase do you resonate with most so far? And what skills do you feel like you need to develop in order to get to the next stage? I'd love to hear about it in comments below. Finally, the last stage of leadership development is scale. And you could say that the internet has made it possible for an average person to scale an audience of people and become a thought leader in a specific area or to a specific group. But scale has always existed amongst the greatest leaders of all time, both good and bad. I'm sure you can think of plenty of great leaders that had a terrible message and a lot of people following them. Another way to look at it is, how could a king become a king back in the day, or a queen become a queen? That's because in some way, shape, or form, those people learned how to communicate to an audience much bigger than the people in front of them. But let's make it relevant for today. This could be in an industry that you work inside of, or a social media platform where you're trying to become an influencer. By the way, there is a lot to be said about influencers. Make no mistake, growing an audience like that takes skill, commitment, time, and a heck of a lot of execution. And that definitely shows an abundance of leadership ability. So my closing thoughts for this video on leadership. Through the years, my understanding of leadership has definitely changed. I used to believe that you had to be charismatic and even brilliant, but the truth is, the qualities that make up a leader have very little to do with your personality and more to do with your level of commitment to a specific cause or a group of people. And I believe that anyone with that type of commitment and some hard work can grow and develop into a formidable leader. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what hit home for you, maybe a skill that you're trying to work on, or was there a particular phase inside of the 5 phases of leadership that really landed for you? You're either working hard at or maybe really good at. I'd love to hear where you're at in comments below. Catch you in the next video.